Hi guys, welcome to Facehammer. It's me, Russ the Facefeel, and it's finally here. It is Old World pre-order day. The embargo's been lifted. I can finally talk about it. Thank you so much, Games Workshop, for sending me this, along with lots of other things. Today, I'm putting up loads of videos going over the products that are on release for you to pre-order. Hopefully, you've already pre-ordered your copy. I'm going to give you an overview of the rulebook in this video. I'm going to talk about what's in it, all the sections, and give you my initial thoughts. Following up from this video, we'll be doing an in-depth how to play series. This isn't this video, this is just an overview of what's in the book, my initial feelings. I'm also got a video coming out later today, which is the top changes you need to know about in the Old World rules if you're used to playing 8th edition or older versions of Warhammer Fantasy Battle. I really would suggest you will check that video out if you're interested in the rules and the mechanics. This is more an overview video, but without further ado, let's get ready for some hammer to your face. Let's get into it. Let's talk Warhammer Old World rules. Let's go. But I just want to show you what's in the book, go through it. I will pick out a few little bits and as I go through, because I'll get excited and I'll talk about it. It's inevitable. But what I say is that if you want to know about the main changes or the big things that make this edition different to 8th edition, it's definitely not the same, 100% not the same. And why I think this is the best version of Warhammer that GW have released, then check that video out, and that'll be on at the same time as these unboxings. That I'm going to put more out on the pre-order weekend. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So this is the book. I love the logo. I love the fact it's blue. I don't know why. I think it's cool. This is a really nice shade of blue. It's one of my favourite colours though, so it's not that unusual. So end covers of the book got the lovely map. We've got, doesn't quite get into Camry, but you've got like the border princes down here, Athol Loren, this is the land of the Bretonians. You've got the Empire, the fact you've got the World's End Mountains, in this whole Empire area here, which is cool. So obviously this is where the vampires come from, but they're not quite there yet. We've not had the Vampire Wars, and do you have Kislev? So I'm sure there'll be a Kislev in the future. They seem to have they've got quite a heavy presence in here, so I think that might be the new army that's coming. Again, lovely, love the look of it. So we go through. It starts off with lore, obviously, and goes through everything that's going on. This is, if you're like me and you don't want to read it, I have actually read quite a bit of this, but if you want the TLDR version, the timeline is great. It tells you everything you need to know in a little abridged format, all the way up to where we find ourselves. So if you read these 8 pages, that will probably give you everything you need to know. And then what's so cool about it, if you read it and you go, oh, I want to know a bit more about this bit, then you can dig down into that. So I would say that's a great way to get an overview of what's going on. I'd almost read that first, to be honest. And you've got this is where it sort of talks about each bit of those in more information. Like it goes down a little bit more into detail. You've got like the coming of Sigmar, Empire Divided, and all this stuff, and there's loads of stuff. So it's great. You want to know about what's going on with the elves. What's going on with the orcs and Tomb Kings. Where chaos is at, and then this is why I said I think you're going to have Kislev soon, because we've got the land of ice and snow, the kingdom of Kislev, the eastern steppes. So it's like, it doesn't just like, oh, it's Kislev. It's like, and that comes out. What is that? Like some sort of, I think this is from Total War, but it looks like they're ruled by dragons. So we're about 90 pages in, and we get into the rules. So you get your overview, your general principles, like how do you measure distances, what is a flank, what's a rank, what's a reroll, what's a modifier, how do templates work. So that's all cool. Then you get your profiles. These are kind of like your foundation that all the rules mess around with. And then, you know, it talks about how to form units. So this will be familiar to a lot of people. You know, you can't do stuff like this or this. And it talks about combat order, marching column, being disruptive in close order, and then, you know, casualty removal, all that sort of stuff. Unit types, this is really interesting, this is really important. So you've got your troop types, the subtype, models per rank, maximum rank bonus, unit, and you see like infantry is only +2, used to be +3. Need 5 models, heavy infantry need 4 models, monster infantry need 3 models, swarms, don't get it. Unit strength, so what you contribute towards your unit strength for outnumbering and fleeter actions and things like that. So, you know, that table's really useful. Magic, and you already know that magic is scattered throughout the phases. Talks about types of spell, how do you cast, how you miscast, how you dispel, how you resolve it. So it's all right. And then we get into the turn sequence, because that's basically all. Those sort of 20 pages are all like principles and things that kind of go across turns. And then we get into the sort of the turn sequence. And the turn sequence, you know, you've got your strategy, movement, shooting, combat, as in the magic phase. So the strategy phase is fairly simple. You know, there's stuff you do in there. You might cast some spells, try and rally. And then you've got movement. Now this is the most complicated phase. If people have not played Warhammer before, movement is where you win and lose games. It's a cliche, but it's so true. Your board control, your combat, basically you're trying to get your combats in your favor. So the whole point of movement is to set up ways to make sure that when you fight, you're at an advantage. So the dice go your way. You don't need to go massively your way for you to win that combat. So you're trying to really stack the odds. That's fundamentally where the game comes down. And then you want your risk management, your control, your redundancy, like how many your backups, things like that. So it's risk management, odds management, positioning is the most important thing. So I won't go into too much detail, but it's super detailed. Now this has the charge mechanic, which is important. One thing I did mention that when we talked about the preview video is I was worried about how the charges work. You have to measure the movement if you go over terrain. Now they've changed the terrain, which is just a flat modifier to your entire move. So if you go over difficult terrain, you just have minus, I think it's minus like 25% or something, I can't remember, but you modify your movement. So actually it doesn't matter how much of the models or how long it takes to clear, it just has a flat benefit or disadvantage. So actually it's super easy to work out, so it's not a problem, which I was so happy when I read that. You got wheeling, you got your stuff, reforming. Again, like movement, in my opinion, in this edition of Warhammer is even more important because they've restricted pivots for single models, and swift reform is not a thing. So you can't reform, take a leadership test, then move sideways, backwards, or whatever. So you're going to have to be a lot more careful in deployment because you can't get out of jail with weird maneuvers. Even things like fast cavalry, you get pivots but up to 90 degrees, things like that. And so you've got to be pretty careful where you position your troops, because turning, moving sideways and backwards means you won't be able to change your angles if you move backwards. If you reform, you won't be able to change your distance, so because you're going to be on the spot. So making sure you're set up properly to control lanes and things like that is so important, which I love. I think it's great. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great change. But yeah, so there's lots of stuff in here. I'm not going to go into detail. It's a lot. I'm just going to say we're into like 20 plus pages on movement. I'm not saying it's like too much. It's just that it's complicated, and there's lots of situation that comes out, and they even have an oddball stuff bit. Our terrain, there we go. So it's -1 to your move. So that's it. So, and also if it ends with quarter, it is disrupted. So it breaks your ranks and things like that. Obviously, open order, don't care. Skirmishers don't care. But even like single models can have like close order rule, because it's to represent how nimble you are, how many pivots you get. So you might be a single monster, but you're still going to be lumbering. So you're not going to have like the maneuverability that you used to in when you could pivot around the spot, move backwards, pivot. You know, you had like hydras that could like move, pivot, move, pivot. They've also got rid of the railroading, which is if you had, for example, a unit that was here and wanted to like pivot, and that's an inch, it wouldn't be able to because you go within an inch. But now you can do that and move and then pivot, so you're not locked, and you can pivot off the table and stuff through things, as long as you don't end your move on them, which is quite good because there's no more railroading. And you've got your shooting phase, which is pretty straightforward. You roll to hit, and there is actually rules now for high ballistic skill where you get rerolls. The wound chart, armor saves. Now, one thing about armor, it's been significantly reduced in this edition. So like your best saves, because you're going to be around 3+, and your sort of average infantry be on a 5 up, elite on a 4 up. So it's not like you're going to have 2 up save Chaos Warriors, 1 up save Chaos Knights, 0 up save or -1 save, Juggernaut Heroes and all that sort of stuff, which is a good thing. It makes Tomb Kings actually feel more resilient, because they always felt very weak because they only had like light armor and like shields and things like that. And now they're going to be, because other things have got less defensive, they're going to feel kind of more defensive, especially with the regen that they've got. The combat phase, again, fairly complicated, but it just covers all the bases, and principally it's quite simple. It's just that there's a lot to read to go, oh, okay, how's that work? Then you've got your rank bonuses and all of that, your break test, your flee path direction, how does that work? Quite useful diagram for that. And then pursuit, follow up, that kind of stuff, and you get the oddball stuff. Now that's the main rule. So we're on to like, what did we start on? 90, we went to 160, so it's a good 50 pages. Like, it's not a small amount of rules. If you played old Warhammer, so we start on 90 and we end on 160, so it's even more than that. It's 70 pages of rules, 74 pages of rules, before we get to the advanced rules. So that's obviously a lot more than maybe you're used to if you play AOS or 40k, the current version. If you played old Warhammer, that's not really that bad. It's not. I think they've expanded the rules out a lot, to be clear, because the problem is if they keep the rules too concise, there'll be loads of FAQs. And really, I hope that and from my point of view, reading this, they're very comprehensive. And what I mean is, but like when you play other games, you normally have like a rules reference and a rule book, and the rule book's kind of cut down, and the rules reference has got all the wordy jargon in it. This is kind of like a halfway house. It's not like super wordy in terms of like, oh, this is really complicated with sequencing numbers and all the rest of it, but it's a lot more expansive, which I think is a good thing, because if it wasn't, you would have lots of ambiguity. Then you'd need FAQs and erratas, and then you would have like pages and pages of stuff. Now, my personal point of view, I think it's very well written. I can't see a lot of loopholes, and in my head I'm thinking, oh, what if I did this? Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I can't do that. I can't do it. So everything seems to be covered, and I know that it's clear from my point of view that the people who've been involved in this project, one, are passionate about it, and two, know their stuff. So it's great. Special rules. So we've got all the USRs, and there's tons of them, which is great because there's way less than AOS War Scrolls, but it's good that you've got them all in one place. So a good set of them. So you've got, what, 15 pages of special rules, you know, so pretty good. Was my maths completely out? No, that's about right. So then we've got the unusual formations. So we've got open order. Now, open order I think is really good. And it tells about this. You can make a pivot of 90 degrees. You're still getting the benefits of being, your rank bonuses are by your unit types. If you're infantry that's open order, you still get rank bonuses. So it still says here, you get +1 for each by their troop types. So there's no real penalty compared to close order. It's actually advantageous to be in open order. And a lot of the skirmishing units can set up in open order, like beastmen, like Gauls, for example, can be ranked up or can be skirmishers. You still get a marching column. It's really strong. Skirmishers, there's a lot of rules, sort of diagrams, because they are complex. You know, you've got how do they charge, how do they rank up when they charge, what they get charged, which direction do they flee, how does facing work. So it's, you know, there's a lot going on here. One of the things that you used to be able to do with skirmishes is charge and pivot or wheel to then change the angle of the overrun and stuff. Or if you're using skirmishers that could flee, you could flee using the closest skirmisher, but the unit was kind of blocking, but the closest one was on the end, so you went in a weird direction. That stuff's kind of gone a little bit. I haven't gone into too much detail on that yet, so I still need to read it in more detail. But I believe when you charge, you have to go the shortest distance, so you can't do any of this wheeling shenanigans, which is a shame because that was one of the main weapons that I used in my arsenal when I was playing the game. You got troop types. And again, this goes into the detail and it gives you a bit more information. So, for example, I was struggling to work out how a character on a chariot joins a unit of chariots. Is actually under the light cavalry or the chariot rule, where it says that you know, characters can join it if they've the same. So it, you know, it kind of is in here rather than somewhere else. And you've got these extra rules for the type. So, you know, the fact that you've got movement rules and you've got a formation and you've got unit type gives you extra movement rules. So as an example, let's find one for heavy chariots. Have got lumbering. So they follow close order even when they're a single model, but they still get a pivot and they cannot be joined by a character. So that rule there modifies close order for chariots that are heavy. And then we've got the monsters again and behemoths. So we've got monsters and behemoths, war machines. The war machines are quite interesting. They're slightly different now. Again, command groups, what the command groups do, standard bearers, trophies, characters. Then you get into the fact, like, how does character mount work? What about joining and leaving units? You can't charge out of units anymore, which is a big thing. Targeting characters, you know, getting lookouts, that kind of stuff, leaving, positioning. You know, what about if your base size doesn't match the unit you're joining? What if you're making way? How do you challenge? All that kind of garbage that's in here. So loads and loads of rules around that. So, you know, we're flying into more rules here. Then we get weapon profiles. So we've got all the different types of weapon in the game. And I quite like what they've done with spears. For example, you've got a lance, you've got a cavalry spear, you've got a throwing spear, you've got a thrusting spear. So it's not just spear. If you're mounted, it does this. If you're this, it does this. They've got their own type. So it's a lot clearer once you know what they do to read the rules. You know, so again, comprehensive, but decent armor. Now this is interesting. So you've got light armor, heavy armor, full plate armor, 654. and you can have a shield. You can be mounted, doesn't give you any benefit. Barding, so a shield gives you +1. Barding gives you +1. Being mounted doesn't count. Having a hand weapon and shield doesn't count for anything. So that's where they've really capped the save. Bolt throwers, they work exactly the same. Stone throwers pretty much work exactly the same. The only difference is you have to put it directly over the middle of the unit when you shoot. So you can't put this template on this guy's head on the edge. You have to put it here. It might scatter there, but you've got to put it there, which is a bit of a shame that you can't snipe with it. Cannons, people will know, 10 from the back. That's always the way. Whatever you're shooting at, 10 from the back of it. It goes in a straight line. You can snipe characters with that, it looks like. Organ guns, fire throwers. Now we're into, like, you know, that is a lot of rules. So we're into over 100 pages of rules, 130 pages of rules. So it's quite daunting. That's why I mean I'm going to have to split the video up to cover it. But it's you're used to if you play old Warhammer, so it's not. I don't think it's too bad. But it will come. Don't worry. Then you've got all the colour sections. I know some people in the comments of the other videos saying, "Oh, I hope they have AOS models in there." It doesn't look like they are. So I don't think there's anything to stop you. If you were like doing Warriors, for example, and you wanted to use the new Warriors on foot or the new Knights, I don't see why you couldn't. No one's going to care. They're still Chaos Warriors. You've got your battlefield. Look at that. Beautiful. That's what we want. Goblin green. I think they missed a trick not basing all the models in Goblin green bases. Yeah, it's really cool, isn't it? Just everything you want out of Warhammer. Then you've got how you muster army lists. So actually, we've got terrain rules and we've got army list rules. So it's be prepared to spend some time with this book. Burning the midnight oil, poring over the rules, because it is a lot. But I love that. So you got scenarios. Now the scenarios, it's victory points. Get points for killing. You've got your open battle. You set up 12 away. You beat each other up. You're just trying to kill stuff. It's great. It's simple. It works. Break point. There's no turn limit. You play until one breaks. It's down to a percentage of unit strength. Flank attack. These are all classics. Meeting engagement. Battle for the pass or mountain pass. Command and control, which is watchtower, but you don't go in the tower anymore. There's no like garrison and all that kind of garbage. You just control. It's just an objective, which scores you bonus victory points. Doesn't win you the game. It's not a flat out win. Then there's some narrative stuff. Some of the narrative missions look a lot of fun. There's Last Stands in there, which is a. Then we get into magic items and magic at the back. So we're still into rules. So really, there isn't a lot of chaff in this beast of a book. You've got your magic laws, all your spells, your signature spell. Then you go into magic items. So what is a magic item? The different types, how you limitness, uniqueness, all the magic weapons. It's just great. And some have got an asterisk, which means you can have more than one in your army because they're common, so not just a spell scroll. The spell scroll's not an auto stop anymore. Charm shield's there, but that's not a 2-up ignore anymore. Enchanted shield doesn't give you a +2 to your armor save. It's just a 6-up ward. It didn't have to be sniffed at, but they just tried to keep armor saves at a 3-up or a 2-up is the best you'll ever get. Really, it's like they've tried to limit armor saves, which I think is a great move. I think that makes the game a hell of a lot more interesting. It's just actually going to die. It's going to make things like the Tomb King regeneration feel a lot stronger. Then you've got the reference at the back, which I think is the same reference that you have in the army sets. And then the index. And then the nice end paper again with the gorgeous map. Now, that is the rule book. Now, I would say that you don't be put off by the size of it. It's very comprehensive. and because it's comprehensive, that's why it takes up a lot of space, because they need to talk about these situations that occur in a complicated game when it comes to interactions between movement, different type, different bases, different fleet paths, you know. And I think it allows the army books to be like this, because you don't need loads of rules in here because they're in here. So if you took all the army books from AOS, in fact I could, it takes up an entire shelf on my book rack, and got all those rules, it's going to be way bigger than this. So I don't think it's as bad as what people think. And what I like, it's almost like one version of the truth. That's what you need to learn. And that will teach you pretty much everything you need to know. So don't be put off. I think this rule set is really, really well written. It's really tight. I'm really, really looking forward to getting my models on the table and playing some games. So I'd say you definitely need this. I think this is a triumph. I'm very excited, and I hope you are too. If you've got any comments and you disagree, or you think, oh, it's too much for me, or you're worried, pop them in there below. I will be doing a video series which breaks the rules down in a video format. And I'm going to have overhead camera like this, but I'm going to have units and show some gaming tools. I'm actually an affiliate with Pro Painting Studios, who make really good tokens and combat gauges and things like that. So I've got an affiliate with Pro Painted. We'll be doing lots of tokens and things on the website. If you click through, I'll put a QR code in the end of the video, or in the description I'll put a link if I haven't managed to get that to work. If you click through that, you'll get 10% off using my affiliate. It does help me out as well, supports the channel. There will be some special Facehammer Old World tools that I've asked Matt to make for me, which will be on sale as well, and that will help me even more if you get my Arca site and things like that. So haven't got one yet. I will put, as soon as I got one, I'll show you on the video. I'm hoping to have a prototype this week, so yeah, it'll be up shortly. So please hold off and support me by picking them up from there. And yeah, so thank you very much for watching, and hopefully you're as excited as I am about the old world, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers, guys.